There is an insect that shows up in your garden, and most people either flinch away from it, knock it off a plant, or worse, step on it without thinking twice. It looks strange. It moves in a way that feels wrong. It turns its head and stares directly at you, which no insect is supposed to do. It has spiked arms that look like they were designed by something that wanted to terrify you. And for most people, the reaction is somewhere between discomfort and disgust. But what if that reaction, that reflex to remove it, to flick it away, to crush it under a boot, has been silently destroying your garden for years? What if the insect you've been treating like a threat is the single most effective predator your garden has? What if the most dangerous thing you can do for your plants isn't a disease or drought or bad soil, but removing the creature that was protecting all of it? Stay with me, because by the end of this, you are never going to look at a praying mantis the same way again. Before we talk about the mantis, we need to talk about what's actually happening inside your garden right now, while you're not watching. Every garden, no matter how well tended, is under constant biological attack. Aphids are colonizing the underside of your leaves in populations that can double every few days. Spider mites are drilling microscopic holes through plant tissue before you can see any damage on the surface. Caterpillars are working through stems and foliage in the dark. Grasshoppers are consuming leaf material at a rate that scales with their population. Beetles are targeting roots. Moths are laying eggs that will become the next generation of destruction. This isn't a worst-case scenario. This is what is happening in your garden every single day, at a scale too small and too fast for human intervention to match. The chemical answer costs money, requires reapplication, kills beneficial insects alongside harmful ones, leaves residue on food crops, disrupts pollinators, and still doesn't address the problem at its source. You are not faster than an aphid colony. You are not more patient than a caterpillar. But something else is. Something that has been solving this exact problem for over 300 million years, long before your garden existed, long before humans existed, long before most of what you recognize as life on this planet existed. That something is sitting on your tomato plant right now, staring at you with those flat, forward-facing eyes, and you almost stepped on it. Let's talk about what a praying mantis actually does, not the myth, not the fear, the actual biological mechanics. A praying mantis is an ambush predator. It doesn't chase prey. It doesn't build webs. It doesn't use venom to immobilize targets. It positions itself among foliage, adopts the color and texture of its background, with a camouflage so effective that researchers studying them in the field frequently walk past them without noticing. And then it waits. When prey comes within range, the strike happens in under 30 milliseconds. That is faster than your eye can process movement, faster than the target's nervous system can generate a response. The spined forelegs, the ones that look designed to frighten you, are actually precision instruments equipped with spines that grip and hold prey completely immobile the instant they close. Mantises eat aphids, they eat spider mites, they eat caterpillars, moths, beetles, grasshoppers, flies, and essentially any insect that ventures within strike range. A single adult mantis in an active garden position is consuming pest insects continuously across the entirety of its active season, every single day. And unlike a chemical spray that degrades, washes off, and requires you to come back with a bottle every 2 weeks, the mantis is self-sustaining. It feeds itself using the population of pests it's controlling. The more pests in your garden, the better fed your mantis is and the more active it becomes. The system is self-reinforcing in a way that no product sold in a garden center can replicate. Now let's take apart every lie you've been told about this insect. Myth number 1. Praying mantises are dangerous to humans. This is almost embarrassing in how wrong it is. A praying mantis cannot harm you in any meaningful way. It has no venom. Its bite, which is exceptionally rare and only occurs when the insect is directly handled and feels threatened, is roughly equivalent in sensation to a small pinch. There is no toxin, no allergic risk specific to mantis contact, no medical concern associated with their presence anywhere near humans or pets. The visual design of the mantis, the spiked arms, the triangular head, the way it tracks your movement triggers a fear response that has no biological basis. It looks dangerous. It is not dangerous. Not to you, not to your children, not to your pets. The threat assessment your brain is running when you see one is completely disconnected from actual risk. Myth number 2. They're just another insect, no more useful than anything else. A praying mantis sits at the top of the insect food chain in your garden. It is not one predator among equals. It is the apex predator of the small-scale ecosystem your garden represents. Ladybugs eat aphids, lacewings eat aphids, ground beetles eat slugs. The mantis eats all of them and more, across a range of prey sizes and types that no other single insect in your garden can match. One mantis covering 1 square meter of active garden is eliminating pest pressure across that entire zone every day without stopping. Myth number 3. They're rare, and you shouldn't disturb them. Praying mantises are not globally endangered as a group. There are over 2,400 known species worldwide, inhabiting every continent except Antarctica. But their local presence in a garden is genuinely significant. In urban and suburban environments, habitat fragmentation, pesticide use, and the removal of the wild plant margins that mantises use for egg laying has made them far less common than they once were. Their presence in your garden is not guaranteed. Finding one is finding something valuable that chose your space. Treating it as a threat and removing it is, from a purely practical standpoint, making your garden meaningfully worse. Myth number 4. The female always kills the male after mating. This is the most famous thing people believe about mantises, and it is substantially exaggerated. Sexual cannibalism does occur in some mantis species under some conditions, most frequently in captivity or in situations of nutritional stress. In wild populations, it happens far less often than popular culture suggests. Studies observing wild mating behavior have found the dramatic cannibalism narrative significantly overstates what actually occurs under natural conditions. The behavior exists. The frequency has been mythologized beyond recognition. Now, let's talk about something almost nobody mentions when they talk about praying mantises: their egg cases. A single female praying mantis, before the end of her season, produces an egg case called an ootheca. It's a foam-like structure, roughly the size and shape of a thumb, attached to a stem or branch. Inside a single ootheca are between 50 and 200 eggs, depending on the species. Those eggs overwinter. In spring, when temperatures rise, they hatch, releasing 50 to 200 juvenile mantises called nymphs into your garden simultaneously. Each nymph immediately begins hunting. Each nymph, if it survives to adulthood, will spend the entire growing season functioning as an active predator in your garden. A single ootheca, undisturbed, is the equivalent of hiring an entire pest control team for your garden, for free, that self-deploys, self-feeds, and self-replicates. Most people who find egg cases in their garden in winter either remove them because the foam structure looks like something that shouldn't be there, or destroy them while cleaning up plant debris. They are, without knowing it, eliminating the next generation of their garden's most effective defenders before the season even starts. Here is the fact that most people never hear. Praying mantises have been on this planet for over 300 million years. They were hunting insects in the undergrowth before the first flower ever bloomed. They predate most of the plants they now protect. The garden ecosystem they inhabit today is, from the mantis's evolutionary perspective, an extremely recent development that they simply adapted to, as they have adapted to every environment they've occupied across 300 million years of continuous existence. For context, the dinosaurs appeared roughly 230 million years ago. The praying mantis was already old by then. The extinction event that ended the dinosaurs, the same one your opossum script mentioned, was roughly 66 million years ago. Mantises survived it. They were here before it happened, and they were here after. Whatever fear response they trigger in you is a very recent biological development. The mantis was hunting long before anything resembling a human had an opinion about it. So what should you actually do? If you find a praying mantis in your garden, leave it exactly where it is. Do not relocate it. Mantises establish territories and orient themselves within specific zones of vegetation. Moving one disrupts its hunting position, its familiarity with the terrain, and frequently results in the animal leaving the area entirely, rather than re-establishing in an unfamiliar spot. If you find an ootheca on plant stems or dead branches during autumn garden cleanup, mark it, leave it, or if the branch it's attached to must be removed, Relocate the entire branch to a sheltered spot in the garden where it can remain undisturbed through winter. The eggs inside are dormant. They will not hatch until the temperature triggers emergence in spring. You have an entire winter to make sure they survive. If you want to actively support mantis populations in your garden, reduce or eliminate broad-spectrum pesticide use. Pesticides do not distinguish between pest insects and predator insects. Every spray that kills an aphid colony also kills or drives away the mantises, lacewings, and ground beetles that would have kept that aphid colony from establishing in the first place. The spray appears to solve the problem while removing the system that was preventing it. Plant diverse native vegetation with structural complexity varying heights, stem thicknesses, and dense foliage. This creates the hunting habitat and egg-laying sites that mantises require. A garden of uniform, densely manicured plants offers fewer viable positions for an ambush predator to work from. There is an insect in your garden that has been solving the problem of pest insects longer than flowers have existed. It doesn't ask for food, water, or maintenance. It requires no seasonal repurchase. It comes back every year from an egg case most people remove by accident. It hunts every day at every scale of pest insect your garden produces for the entire growing season. And the most common thing people do when they see one is reach for something to remove it with. The mantis doesn't need your appreciation. It has been doing this job since before the concept of a garden existed. But your garden needs the mantis. And the next time you see one turn its head and stare directly at you from the stem of a plant, understand what you're actually looking at. 300 million years of uninterrupted survival, watching you from 2 inches away, waiting for you to walk past so it can get back to work. Leave it alone. It's working.